All right, Shalom. First and foremost, before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. That honors go out to the apostles, elders, great millstone, rule and teach well. Shalom, wa barakiam to you brothers and sisters out there. This is Brother Malachi from the Great Millstone National Camp. And Lord, when that this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect, right? Got a word up here, that I'm going to go into and just, kind of roll from here. And Lord, when it's edifying, the word I got up is content. All right, content. It says, early 15th century, to rest or be satisfied, to give satisfaction to. Which the actual Google definition might be a little better for this. Well, no, satisfied. Basically the same thing. What does it mean to be satisfied? Pleased. Meet the expectations, needs, or desires of someone. So basically it means to be satisfied. Now, could things be better? Absolutely. Things can always be better, because we're in hell, we're in Babylon, The only place where things can't be better is the kingdom of heaven, because that's the ultimate perfection. But at the same time, things can be a lot worse, way worse. But they're not. They're where they're at. So you have to be satisfied, you have to be content with the situation that you are currently in. Now, there ain't nothing, now we're not saying you're in a situation, don't pray to the Lord to change it, or, no. Nobody's saying that. Right, because when you're in this truth, you're going to have times where you might have this, this and that. You have times where you don't have it. You might be up, you might be down. You might have a high-paying job, you might not. You might, everything is subject to change. Speaking about our possessions, our situations, in society, it's all subject to change. Now, by all means, if you can get a better job, if you can upgrade your situation, do what you can, but still be content and satisfied with what you have. Well, my car is 10 years old. I want a new car. Well, if you're able to get a new car or a better car, because maybe your car is high mild, then go ahead. But be grateful, be content, be satisfied that you have a car at all. And especially if the Lord doesn't allow you to end up getting one, and He just wants you to keep what you got, be content. There was probably a time before you didn't have no car. And you had to walk, or you had to take a bike, or you had to always ask for rides, borrow, So we got to be content. So let me get a few scriptures on that. First, we'll start with this. Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 and 12. It says, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need." Now, what's very important to understand is even when you are full or up, you're not elite status. You're not rich. You're not top tier, top of the food chain. And when you're hungry, when you're abased, you're not, down and out. All right, you're not through. You're not starving to death. You're not destitute. lacking, is destitute, basically goes into lacking the basic principles for life, right? You got a house, you got clothes, you got food, you got the brotherhood, okay? You got the Lord, you're not somewhere in, a third world country, haven't eaten 2-3 days, pining away, your shirt halfway ripped off. That's not you, okay? You don't need to, you don't go any further into that. And I'm not laughing at that situation. I'm just laughing at, because I was getting hella descriptive. Which obviously I'm not thinking about anything specifically. I'm just saying, like, we get the point, So I ain't going to draw it out. But you'll find yourself with times where you have more, times where you have less, and times where you're in between and here and there. Just be grateful, be content. The wadi how about Shemal Shai? It could always be worse. It could always be worse. Now that doesn't mean that you can't complain in righteousness, about hell that's going on, being vexed, because we're supposed to be. All right, you're supposed to be tired and fed up with this place, but you still got to be positive. You still got to be grateful. You still got to be content. You can remind yourself, man, this is why we need the kingdom, man. We need to get the hell out of here, man. This and that. Complaining about Esau always taking taxes out. You're vexed. But don't allow that to be your whole mindset. Allow it to just be a moment. I'm irritated. We need to get the hell out of here. But I'm very grateful for what I have, and how much I can continue to grow in the Spirit. Be content. And all these things that we see here, they're all temporary. It's all going to pass away at the end of the day anyways. So whether you have more or less, especially once Jacob's trouble comes in and the MOTB is made mandatory, everybody's going to be in the same boat at that point. Unless you take it. But if you don't take it, or you're pending your decision, we're all in the same boat. Outcasts. No job, no house, none of that no more. No more society. You see? That just goes to show that all these things are going to indeed pass away. Which is why, like it says in Matthew 6, we have to store up our treasures in heaven. All right, where thieves don't break through and steal, where moth, it doesn't decay away. That's a good one right there. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory by Mashiach Yahushai. So the Lord is going to take care of us. That's also in Matthew the 6th chapter, I believe. Goes into how, the Lord feeds the fowls of the air. Is he not going to much rather feed you? 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Mashiach's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. That's another thing. When the Lord puts you through situations in hell and tests, really we got to rejoice in that. Of course, right away, like Scripture even say in Hebrews, no chastising for the present seems to be joyous but grievous. But that's the Lord putting you through a test because he wants you to learn something. He wants you to grow. He's taking time out of his day to feed, to water the plant, to water the seeds, for growth to come forth. And that's not something that everybody can say, man. A lot of these people, the Lord basically just allows to just walk willy-nilly, do whatever they want. But when it comes to us, we got to be more structured. We got to be more on point. We can't be doing what these people in the world are doing. And I'm not even just talking about literal heathens. The Lord don't want us doing what the 2/3 do either. None of it, man. Which, they're all They're all heathens, you know, in the sense of mentally. But the Lord wants us to truly be holy. You know, the things that you'll see a 2/3 start doing when he's 45 to 60 years old, you know, the health and all that. The Lord is pushing health right now, big time. The Lord wants us young men to do that now. Don't wait 30 more years. Don't wait 10 more. Don't wait 3 more months. You know, start making these changes. Now, you know, understand too, that's part of being content. Understand that perfection ain't coming overnight. You know, major growth don't happen overnight. It takes time. Everything takes time. Small steps are still steps. Okay, I got to keep telling myself that. You know, especially when Jake is trying to work on multiple things at once, and you know, it's all going to take time, and it takes time in video games. You know, it takes time in movies. It takes time in books. You know, how the storyline has to build and the character has to go through that development. How would it be different here? You have some TV shows where the character doesn't develop into the man that everybody loves until like the fucking 4th season. You know? This is a good one too. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 8 to 9, it says, "Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me." And it's ironic that King Solomon said this. And who else made a statement similar to that? Yahweh Shai, right? The Lord's Prayer. Talking about daily bread. Which, if you can receive it, King Solomon is Yahweh Shai. Right, in the reincarnation. That was his past life. He was King Solomon in the past life. Verse 9, it says, "Least I be full and deny thee, and say, Who is the Lord? Or least I be poor and steal, and take the name of my God in vain." Right, so it's about balance. Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, especially here in Babylon. Because we see how a lot of these rich people act out here. You know, and then we also see the flip side. People that don't have nothing, we see how they act out here in the streets, running around. We don't want to, you know, we just want to have daily bread, man. We want to be able to put food on the table, have clothes, you know, transportation. You know, we just want the basic necessities to operate in society. So, Tawadi al-Bashmel Shai, you know, for everything we have. All right, last one I'm going to get. Proverbs 3 and 5. It says, "Trust in Yahweh with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." So you got to trust in the Lord, man. Don't lean onto how you feel or how you think things should be done. Okay? And understand, too, that the Lord isn't answering all your prayers. There's certain prayers, things you ask for, the Lord ain't going to give you. You know, or certain things you pray that the Lord takes away that he ain't going to take away. You know? Let the Lord's will be done. Understand that this is his movie and he's putting you in the position to succeed. He wants you to win. All right, 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. All right, so Lord, when that this lesson was edifying, before I close, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashmel Shai Bashem Rachak Kodash. The honors the apostle Ezra Millstone. Shalom.